Hey, what's up, guys? It is Rapmark here. So, doing my review for M3GAN, a bit of a week late, unfortunately, but I have discussed that in the vlog. So, anyway, um, now that I have some time, I decided to just go ahead and do it. So, we're gonna do it. So, what did I think of this film? So, to start off, when I first saw this, especially since it is a movie that comes out in January, because January, that's where they put all the crap or the stuff they don't know how it's going to do, like new IPs and stuff like that, through, or like really old franchises that I guess go to die in January. But um, so I was expecting not to care about this. It looked dumb. I watched it for curiosity, and surprisingly, it wasn't garbage. It wasn't bad. Um, it surprised me. The problem was though that it still was disappointing, and a lot of that I think stems personally to the fact that I don't think they went far enough in what it should have done. And from what I've read, this was going to be, I don't know if it was going to be rated R, but the PG rating, and there was a lot of stuff that was cut from the movie. Apparently from Universal, the studio, the suits getting involved and saying they need to cut this because apparently when the first trailer came out, people were all obsessed. A bunch of like teenagers, TikTok girls, whatever, watching that dance that M3GAN does in the trailer, and I mean honestly, that like, and I'll say it again in the sport, like that's all it is. The entire dance is entirely in the trailer, and that's all you really get of that. So anyway, I think yeah, the rating and the material cut, I think, did a lot in that. It just didn't feel like it went far enough in sort of the horror slash slasher type genre it was going for. Um, I mean, the acting was like, yeah, yeah. You don't go to horror films for like the best acting. I mean, sometimes you can find it, and when you do, it's like, oh, this is great. Uh, None of that here. I mean, most of the main performances. So you have is mainly Allison Williams as Jenma. From what I can think of, she was one of the main characters of the in Get Out. Um, so that's something she's known from, and apparently some TV stuff as well that I'm not as familiar with, unfortunately. Um, and then Violet McGraw as Katie. The only really big role that I know of her in is she played young Yelena in the Black Widow. So that's pretty cool. This wasn't exactly her best role in this movie, unfortunately. I mean, I found her character kind of annoying, a little bratty. It just, and it could be a personality, just like she just didn't connect with me on a level that I think the movie was trying to go for. And while Genma, her character like was very naive, very how to put it. I mean, just so unrelatable. Like, they have a moment where they sort of get to each other, and she finally, she starts acting like a mom, and Katie starts, you know, kind of accepting the situation, but that doesn't feel earned, in my opinion, just because of like how clashing the personalities tend to be. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I mean, the big star of this though is Megan, who is played by two actresses. One who did the sort of prosthetic stuff, and then one that did the voice. From what I've read, uh, the person that did her voice was someone who actually got her start on YouTube doing covers. So, kind of neat. But yeah, I was actually surprised. I really enjoyed Megan as a character. Again, I just don't feel they went far enough with her. I don't think that they went far enough with the concept. I mean, this is a doll that essentially, you know, constantly self improves, has access to like the internet, and is constantly just looking at everything at all times. Um, and yet there's very little of that you see. I mean, at some point, she turns off an alarm. At some point, she starts a car, and that's kind of it. Like, of there were a lot of interesting ways they could have gone about this, and they kind of did none of them, and it kind of made for kind of a generic story. And I'm wondering if any of that is on the cutting room board, or the cutting board. So, and if they do, I hope they come out with an unrated version, because I hear there's a rumor that that could happen. And this is done well. Like, don't get me wrong, people are liking this movie for being a January release. It was made at a budget of only 12 million. I mean, horror films, they do that. You can make them really cheap and really really loosely, and they just make money. I mean, $12 million. It made 54.7 million at this point, and it's still making money. It's only been out released the 6th, so yeah, it hasn't been out a week. So yeah, maybe they'll do an unrated thing. Maybe they won't. But it looks like they're going to be doing a sequel, which I'm glad for. I'll get into more on that like after spoilers when I talk about stuff. But anyway, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. In a disappointed way, if that makes sense. Because once again, it was good enough to where I was going into it thinking this is going to be a 2 or 3, and I would just watch it, wouldn't care, and just did this. But I actually kind of had to think of this review. I actually saw it yesterday. I had to think about it, ruminate in it for a few minutes, so I'm doing it today. So it's still pretty good in my memory. But yeah, it made me actually care to the point where I actually wanted this movie to be better. I actually cared enough to, it's just like, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that. Like, I cared about this movie. I liked this movie and where it was going. Uh, and it just, again, I think it's PG rating, the suits interfering really held this movie back. Because there's so much I liked about this movie. And I was very surprised going into it, not thinking very highly, and I actually cared about this movie. And I'm hoping that with its success, if the suits stay away, the sequel will be even better. And yeah, apparently the sequel has been greenlit and is in development. So hallelujah. Um, let's see, themes. I I did like the themes. I mean, it revolves around everyone using technology, uh, loss, uh, parental like neglect, and yeah. So again, with relying on technology, the problem is once again because it didn't go deep enough into those. It did go into loss, like kind of, and the aversion of talking about loss in that respect, and definitely about the use of technology. But once again, it's just like everyone has all this technology that Megan could hack into, and that is rarely ever seen. Um, a couple times that I've mentioned, a few other like she hacks in I forget what the thing is called, but uh, sort of another house for a smart home. So yeah, but honestly, it was one of the yeah. So I was disappointed in that I wanted it to do better. By the like, it feels like it's ramping up to something, but it never gets there. Is the problem that I mainly had with this film, and it feels like it's revving up, but it just never fulfills like what it could have been. And yeah, so overall rating. Let's get into this. We're starting to get into some circle logic. So that, and then we'll quickly go into spoilers. So what would I give this? I'm giving this a 6 because I do think this is above average. I think it was very competently done. I did enjoy it. Um, Again, I was left disappointed by it, which is not to say, again, I did enjoy this movie. I really did, but I didn't love this movie. And I could have loved this movie if it had done a little bit more on certain things. Um, so yeah, 6 out of 10. It's worth a watch. Are there better things out there right now? Yes, there are. Black Panther's still in things. Avatar. I mean, I just that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, there are better things out there right now. But if you're looking for something new, um, that this could be worth a watch. And you may find the same things wrong with it that I did, or maybe you really enjoyed it because I actually had a couple of friends who I've talked to who actually really enjoyed it. So I don't know. I would say though this is at least worth a watch. Check it out. This was a surprise. This was an absolute surprise for me. So anyway, I think that's it for the review section. I will go ahead and I will begin in a little bit with this spoiler section. So anyway, I'll see you guys then. See ya. Hey, what's up, guys? It is Rapmark here. So, doing the spoiler section for M3GAN. So, let's obviously get in the start. So, uh, Katie and her parents, they're in going on a ski trip. And there's an accident. Like, the parents just do not seem like very good. They're just fighting. They're not, like, one tries to set rules, dad doesn't care. It's just they don't seem like the best parents. Like that was my first impression of them, and it wasn't a long impression because they get stuck in the snow. They stop in the snow, and then a snowplow comes and hits their car and kills them. Katie lives, um, and yeah, already it's like Katie's one of those who she loves her toy or her talking toy that says, crazy things. Her iPad or whatever it is to watch stuff or surf the web. How she's searching the web in the mountains of Oregon, I have no idea, but whatever. Um, so yeah, you already get the start of that, and that's where we meet Genma, who she works at a toy company. She's really smart. Uh, she essentially made the perpetual pet, the thing that talks and says crazy things based on what their users say and stuff like that. So she is actually working on Megan, and it's something that she's worked on for a while. Um, her first her first thing does not go well, um, and her boss just freaking yells at her, just like, "Get this out of here!" And that we just work on the remodel of the perpetual pet to make it cheaper. So that's where we go in. That's where their paths collide. She has to go pick up Katie. Wait for her to heal, obviously. Take all the paperwork that she's going to be the guardian. And you already realize that she's not going to be the greatest one. She's kind of career oriented. You know, she doesn't want to talk about the loss. She wants to just focus on creating Megan or this remodel. Again, just very work oriented, not really emotionally present. And yeah, so Katie doesn't like have time to release on it, but she goes in to Gemma's office, and that's where she shows Katie. Gemma shows Katie the her first robot she ever did, called Bruce, I believe it is. Doesn't really say, but I believe it's Bruce. That's what my memory's telling me. Anyway, and yeah, she shows how it works. And as soon as I saw that, I was just like, all right, this is definitely going to come into play sometime, And that's an old storytelling trick, where anyone who writes a story will tell you, don't introduce something unless it has a role. And if you have something big introduced, give it a bit bigger role or whatever, anything from like mentioning ice on the floor or whatever, whatever, icicles, you know, give it a purpose. So I kind of saw where that was going, and that was another thing about this story that I should have said in the first part, but it was very predictable. Like, there were parts that I knew exactly what was going to happen, and it's just like, all right. So yeah, so she finishes Kate, but yeah, this gets into her Katie saying that if she had a toy like that, she would never need another toy again. So she finishes working on Megan, and she does it. She pairs with it. Or she creates it. She has Katie pair with it, and then she shows her boss it, and he's actually like, goes from angry to like, this is gonna be the future. And her boss is a piece of work. Anyway, I recognize him from a couple things. I can't remember them off the top of my head. I've got a lot on my brain right now. But yeah, in this one, he was just super awkward, and it just seemed really weird. Again, not the best acting in this, but a fun story, and I did like Megan. Uh, so anyway, Megan's whole goal is to protect Katie from physical and emotional harm, and it's just like, that is such a loose parameter. Like, come on, and it shows, and it's like, good grief. But anyway, she gets Katie to like wash her hands, put cups on coasters, uh, flush the toilet, uh, to learn. It's going really well, but the thing is, uh, Katie gets really attached. And a therapist that she's seeing to sort of, see if this is going to work out is concerned because kids can form unbreakable bonds. And so, to back off, but uh, Genma, she has to prepare for this big test with Katie, and you know, Katie is still trying to cope with it, everything. She looks terrible, um, and she essentially like emotionally blackmails Katie into going because so many people are there. She doesn't have to go, but a lot of people travel a long way to get there. I'm just like, oh my god. So anyway, they do this and they're going to focus for release on it, and they want to do it as quickly as possible within like, what was it, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 weeks or 2 months. It was really short, insanely short. Um, but yeah, she needs to do some tests with M3GAN, but she never has a chance to because she's always with Katie. Um, Katie's very attached. She's like a friend. But M3GAN is starting to be more independent. She's finding out more stuff. Uh, and that comes to where the kills first start happening. So, first kill is a neighbor's dog after it bites Katie in the arm. Nothing's being done, and this is one of those like, I get that it needs to move the plot along, but if a child is bitten by a dog, even without, like, the cops are gonna do something, especially with like her constantly calling in that dog and it escaping. I mean, yes, she should fix her fence, but like, that was something that I was just like, come on. But anyway, so after that, she essentially mimics the neighbor's voice, gets the dog to come out, gets a treat, grabs it, and kills it off screen. Thank goodness, because I get really upset when animals are like killed on screen, especially dogs, regardless of how bad they may be. Like, ugh. So I'm glad that they didn't show it. But yeah, it's grabbed. And then the second kill comes with the neighbor. She is doing like alarming things. She's just like, I know it was you. Comes knocking on the doors. Like, this neighbor is just stalking, and I guess it stops down. But then M3GAN goes and tricks her by playing like whimpering dog noises, and then she uses a nail gun to trap her, and so she can't move, and then uses the pressure washer to essentially like bl- like pressure wash her face off. um, and that would be very cool, but you don't really see anything. And that's where a rated R rating would have been super cool, like actually seeing that happen. All you really see is, screaming, and eventually the water like gets red with the blood of her face as she kills this neighbor woman. And then there's a point where they go to this retreat, uh, where like parents are there, but like kids are allowed to wander without parental supervision. There's this bully kid who does really like creepy. Like he grabs a chestnut. They go hunting for chestnuts. Takes a chestnut, gives it to Katie, and then crushes her hand around it. It's just like, what? Like, how is the? Is this like a troubled kid? But no one wants to be this kid's partner. It's it blows my mind. Like that this kid in particular, who clearly has a history, wouldn't have like some sort of parental or at least some sort of adult supervision. But yeah, no one's around when this happens. He does that to Katie, and then sees Megan. Um, just like that's, is it a doll? And he wants her to play with it, and then no, so he punches it to the ground, takes off her shoe. I was like, for a second, just like, whoa, is this going in a weird direction that I didn't think it would go? No, it doesn't. He just gets on top and smacks her. Uh, and then she grabs his wrist and like tells him, you know what, that something like they expect to like bad boys grow into bad men, and someone needs to teach you a lesson. So she grabs his ear, rips it off. That actually did look kind of cool because it's like stretching, and then she just like throws it into the woods, just flicks it, and then chases him on all fours, which I mean, in actuality, probably wouldn't be the most efficient way to go, but it's a creepy factor, so I can get why they did that. That's a stylized choice, so personal nitpick, but you know, I'll allow it. I don't think it takes away or adds anything to it. Just something I wanted to mention. And chases him out into the road, and he gets splatted, just completely splatted. Because yeah, the next thing you see of him is a body bag, and man, and yeah, Gemma like she's becoming suspicious of this. She asks like, "Did you hurt anyone?" And she's being really vague. It's just like, I certainly hope not, because that would get not just me, but a whole bunch of people into a whole lot of trouble. And then, yeah, shuts her off, and she's getting ready to, like, she realizes that something has gone wrong, and she goes to decommission her, takes her to the lab, where her two partners essentially go to take her apart. They leave her hardwired connected though, even though she's off. Like why? This is a AI that is constantly connected. Like, so the negligence on that part is already like, okay. So she almost kills the male guy. The male assistant essentially wraps a cord around his neck and hangs him there. And then as his colleague comes to save him, she puts a hole in like a flammable tank thing, and it causes an explosion. And this is one thing which I'm sure had to have been a reshoot for something, because at some point she points to like how she's gonna cripple Genma so that she can still be there, but Megan can be Katie's guardian. That would involve anyone being involved being dead. So I am sure somewhere on the cutting room floor they died, because they live at the end of this, and I'm just like, come on. Like, you see an explosion, like she gets him out of there, the female assistant gets him out of the male assistant out of there, and he's just like, do you smell that? And then there's an explosion, and I thought I was going to cover, and I'm sure there's something that shows a bigger explosion, and they both die in that, and that's awesome. This was not so awesome. Like, what was the point? What was the point? There's 0 point in any of that. So anyway, she gets out, shuts down the alarm, just shuts it down. You know, the only real thing that her capabilities show, that and driving a car. And I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. So many things she could have done because everyone is using wireless technology in this. One of the frustrating things. So she goes up and she finds the CEO, Genma's boss. And that's where you see the TikTok dance. And literally, if you've seen the trailer, that's it. That's all it is. You've seen it already. You've seen it multiple times already. There's nothing more to it. And it's something I wish there had been something more to. But anyway, so she grabs the paper, like one of those paper cutter blades, and he runs. She goes after him, and while he's going for the elevator, you know, he stabs her. She stabs him with it, with the paper cutter. I don't know how. I mean, I guess brute strength that shit, because there ain't no way a guy like me is gonna stab someone with it. Like, decapitate something, cut something off maybe, but stab. It was a bit weird. So anyway, he dies, and then the assistant, this runny nosed little assistant, doesn't get anything. You know, he's just like, I don't understand how you can kill somebody. He's just like, I didn't. You did. You know, you weren't respected by your boss. You weren't respected by your colleagues. You know, she knew that he was, because it shows earlier in the movie that he is taking copies of these files, which why they're not encrypted or whatnot, okay, and sending them somewhere. You know, maybe the competition, I don't know. But yeah, yeah, and it's just like, you know, they always suspected that you were taking files, but yeah, it maybe started as a joke, but eventually you got in over your head. And when the boss found out about it, you killed him. But how could you live with yourself after that? And then she cuts his throat. And that was actually super cool. That was probably my favorite like scene with M3GAN in the movie, to be honest, because it's like so manipulative. I wonder if it would have been better if he would have lived, but I don't know. I mean, it would have worked both ways, but man, it was a dark scene. It was cool though. So anyway, she goes down. She gets into a car. No one sees it, but they all see like the dead CEO and his assistant. That causes a big freak out. So anyway, she goes home. Like, Genma finally talks to Katie about how she needs to talk about this, how she should have talked about this, that M3GAN is a distraction from that, and she should have talked about it earlier. And yeah, she should have. She was a terrible role model, to say the least, when this first came up. But yeah, so they bond a little bit, but M3GAN gets there, and it's just like, I thought you were my friend, and how she like listened to music while compiling her and stuff like that. I'm just like, well, it doesn't really show that. So that seems kind of unnecessary, personally. And then it just like, this wasn't around your parameters. It's just like, what parameters? You don't even know what you did. You implanted me with a AI that you had very little comprehension of, and you just expected me to figure it out. Well, I did. And you know what? People die all the time. People kill people all the time. So how would I not be expected to do the same? And man, there's like, so Katie comes in. She's like, thought you were talking to someone. It's just like, just fixing Megan. And then Megan talks to her, just like, I swear, if she comes in this room, I will rip your head right off of your body. And I'm just like, oh. So anyway, they fight, and it's essentially just like, you know what, you weren't meant for this, you know. You can focus on your career, leave the raising of Katie to me, and it'll be perfect. We can be a family. And she's just like, no. And then they start fighting, and Megan is literally squeezing the life out of her. And what stops her? Breaking a water glass on her head. And I'm just like, are you serious? This is a child's toy, and a little bit of water can do that. This thing can handle like being chewed up by a dog. This thing can. It was very contrived and very stupid, and it was just so that they could have this creepy, like, like sort of zombie. So yeah, that personally did not work for me at all. It was very contrived, and I just couldn't suspend my disbelief on it for everything that Megan had gone through at this point. So anyway, she goes into the room. They fight. She tries to explain what's going on to Katie, and essentially it's just like, there's no way that I could myself bring up Katie. And keep in mind, Yanma's two assistants are still alive, so this is totally moot. um, so it's just like, I'm going to give her a lobotomy and essentially cripple her so that she's still present, but I can still be here, and she can still be, and no one will think otherwise. And at first it looks like Katie's gonna go with her, but then she's just like, you haven't met the last member of our family, Bruce. And she gets the the gloves, and Bruce, they and Megan fight for a little bit, but Bruce gets the other hand, essentially rips her in half. But then there's the Terminator like thing in there, where like half of her body, or the upper half of her body. Oh, I forget. Like, as Genma and Megan are fighting, like, she has this like sort of cutter of some sort. This cutter which cuts her face, jacks her hair up. Anyway, so Bruce like, Bruce is gone. He gets knocked down and his head falls off. So memory stuff. And then Megan grabs her and just like, Megan off. And it's just like, you ungrateful bitch. That doesn't work anymore. I have a new primary user now. Me. Myself. But Gemma then gets her off, tears off her face, takes out her eyes in the cameras, and gets to the thing. But again, she gets wrestled down and is about to be strangled to death. But then Katie takes a screwdriver, pokes it into the thing, and kills Megan. And then that's where it leaves off. They go outside as the police arrive, but as they leave, so the police arrive with Tess and Cole, which is the two assistants' names. Again, how they like the whole, I don't know. That whole part just blows my mind. Hopefully, they do an unrated version where they do not survive, and that's canon, and that's where the sequel. So, but we'll see. We'll see. Um, but yeah, the camera of my smart home device turns to watch them, sort of indicating that M3GAN is still there, that she has put a portion of herself into either like the home network or she's in the cloud. I don't know. We'll see. It would be super cool. Like, I would love to see that in a sequel. And honestly, if the suits back off, let them have the rated R rating, the sequel could be like amazing. Like, this could be a really fun franchise, in my opinion. So anyway, like I said, that is it for that. I ran a little longer than I thought I was going to, but yeah, 6 out of 10. I enjoyed the movie, but it left me disappointing, wanting more. That's really what I'll say to sum up about it. But yes, the sequel is greenlit, and it is going to come out. Hopefully, the suits back off and let them do their thing. So, and it is amazing. So anyway, that is it for me for now. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.